evening and welcome to NTA News Top Table, where we go to the length and breadth of the country to bring you news with the extra touch of fine details. Tonight, the Petroleum Industry Act to hit the ground running with the presidential approval of the implementation framework and the constitution of the steering committee to oversee the process. We have reports on the prospects, potentials and low-hanging fruits budding in the sector. We also have the figures in Nigeria's local revenue generation efforts. Then, behind bars, but not barred from successes, we have a report on an underreported side of correctional facilities. There is an Eden of sorts in the hills of Adamawa, where human existence is still at its most basic. The tranquility of oblivion exists in the hills of Kuma, but there is a coma. Find out. We have a mixed symphony of upbeats and the downbeats tonight. So let's set sail. I am Fatima Umarbuba and this is News Extra. I welcome you. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved an implementation framework for the Petroleum Industry Act commencing immediately so that the envisaged competitive and resilient oil and gas sector begins to take shape. In his first public statement on the new law, the president disclosed that in the past 10 years, Nigeria lost an estimated $50 billion worth of investments due to the uncertainty created by the non-passage of PIB. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari assented to the Petroleum Industry Bill last Monday, marking the end of uncertainty as well as underinvestment in the nation's oil and gas sector of the economy for decades. That was while working from home during his 5-day mandatory isolation in line with the COVID-19 safety advisory following his return from the UK. Here, the president is joined by presiding officers of the National Assembly and other stakeholders to continue basking in the euphoria of this historic landmark for Nigeria.
The Petroleum Industry Act 2021 creates a regulatory environment that would ensure efficiency and accountability across the oil and gas value chain, attract investment, improve our revenue base, create jobs, and support our economic diversification agenda.
The act, President Buhari says, will, among others, provide for deliberate end to gas flaring, reposition the NNPC to a commercially driven oil company that is accountable to the Federation, necessary investment in renewable energy and sustainable development of host communities.
I appeal to the host communities to look carefully at the contents of the bill, which in the implementation will bring real and lasting benefits to them. I am therefore directing all relevant ministries, departments, and agencies of government to fully cooperate in ensuring the successful and timely implementation of this law. Let me now commend the leadership of the Ninth Assembly for their continued pursuit of our national aspiration and demonstration of mutual harmony with the executive in the pursuit of a patriotic outcome in the passage of the PIB.
For Senate President Ahmed Lawan, the National Assembly will always stand to be counted in the task of guaranteeing sustainable growth and development of the economy, which the Petroleum Industry Act seeks to achieve.
Everybody in the National Assembly, in both the Senate and House, from all parts of Nigeria, work for the bill to be passed. This is one bill that will benefit Nigeria as a country and benefits its people. Our states will have more revenues, our local governments will have more funds, and of course what we expect is that these revenues will be translated into actionable projects that will make life better for Nigerians. The host communities have been specifically mentioned and these funds will go there. This time around, there should be no excuses for anybody to tamper with this money.
Despite depending on oil resources for the development of other critical sectors of the economy, Nigeria before now relied on petroleum industry, governed largely by laws and other obsolete legislations enacted over 50 years ago. As a result, billions of dollars worth of investment eluded the country. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has commenced implementation of the newly signed Petroleum Industry Act, PIA, by approving a steering committee to oversee the process. A statement from the presidency indicates that the steering committee is headed by the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Temipre Silva. Other members are Permanent Secretary, Minister of Petroleum Resources, Group Managing Director, NNPC, Executive Chairman, FIRS, representative of the Ministry of Justice, representative of Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Natural Resources, Olufemi Lijadu, as External Legal Advisor, while the Executive Secretary, Petroleum Technology Development Fund, will serve as head of the Coordinating Secretariat and the Implementation Working Group. The primary responsibility of the steering committee shall be to guide the effective and timely implementation of the PIA in the course of a transition to the petroleum industry envisaged in the reform program, and ensure that the newly institutions created by the full capability to deliver on their mandate under the new legislation. The committee has 12 months duration for the assignment, and periodic updates will be given to Mr. President. In the meantime, the working day of this week began on a pleasant note for not only players in Nigeria's oil and gas industry and the Niger Delta region, but also all Nigerians, with the news of President Buhari signing into law the Petroleum Industry Bill. The new act is generating a lot of reactions, with NTA Tuesday Live as one platform where such reactions resonated. Abakar Usman Akwanga has that.
We're not talking about 3% of maybe a bit of profit, or 3% of just deep offshore.
The prolonged legislation of the Petroleum Industry Bill and its eventual passage by the National Assembly and assent by President Muhammadu Buhari finally settled the dust of many years' nightmare.
We're now going to see a conversion of the NNPC from what has really been, for a very long time, over 40 years, a fairly slow to adapt government bureaucracy, really moving that into what will be a commercially viable, really fairly independent entity that is based on, maximizing the profit potential of the sector on the nation's economy.
The Act provides frameworks for the Nigerian petroleum industry with major reforms to consolidate development of host communities who are battling with ecological challenges.
What you now have is a structure that says 75% of the entire trust will be spent solely on capital projects for these host communities. 20% will be sent to a reserve fund, which will essentially be used for the catering to the needs of these host communities at the time when the viability of oil has expired.
As Nigerians await implementation of the Act, the narrative of many decades of setback is expected to invoke a paradigm shift that will usher the region into a circle of increased enterprising opportunities and massive infrastructure. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
Thank you so much, Abakar Usman. Now joining me in the studio to discuss more on the issues around the PIA is the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Temipre Silva. You're welcome to News Extra.
Thank you very much.
And I'll say congratulations.
Congratulations to all of us Nigerians.
All right. Well, the PIA, we all know, is finally here with an instruction to you as chairman to set implementation rolling. What's the timeline for the major changes, if I may ask?
The timeline, my immediate timeline, is about 12 months. As a committee, we're expected to report periodically to Mr. President, but we have 12 months to set the ball rolling, the implementation ball rolling.
Okay. The status of, some critical parastatals in the ministry, such as the NMPC, PEF, PPRA, and lots more, are expected to change. We all know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, especially with this policy on a deregulation of the downstream taking effect. Could you throw more light on these changes?
Well, the NMPC will now become a company registered as a limited liability company, registered under the Companies and Allied Matters Act. So it will be a commercial venture now. That is what is going to happen. As opposed to being a corporation or a parastatal of government, it will now become a company registered under CAMA. That's all I can say about NMPC for now. And of course, PEF will now be subsumed under the midstream and downstream regulator, the regulatory authority. And then PPPRA also will be part of the midstream and downstream regulatory authority.
Okay.
Yeah, so PEF will no longer exist as it is. It will be part of a bigger body, which will be looking after the regulating the midstream and the downstream. Also, PPPRA will also be absorbed into that bigger body, and NMPC will become a CAMA company. That is how the PIB states it.
We can't talk about PIB without talking about host community benefits. So the host community benefits remain, critical in spite of the PIA. So what will the steering committee do as the chairman now? Do you do concerning the dissatisfaction expressed over the 3% issue, or do you think it is okay?
Well, I always say that there is always agitation. Even after the NDDC, there was a lot of agitation after the NDDC Act was passed. A lot of people felt that the 3% that was stipulated by the Act to fund the NDDC was too little. We expect that agitations will always continue. Even in the United States of America, even in the UK, there are agitations for more. So we know that agitations will always be. But you must understand the perspective. 3% of the operational budget, of the global budget of the industry, that's a lot budget. And that is what is going to be now targeted. And this 3% is coming on top of what is still going to be going to the NDDC. It's coming on top of the 13%, which is coming via the Constitution to the states. So I think that it's not such a bad deal. A lot of people say 10%. Oh, 10% of what? They say what was proposed before was 10%. And 10% of what? What was proposed before was 10% of profit. And that means that if I do not declare profit, you have nothing. For example, everybody knows COVID-19 last year, everybody ran at a loss. So that means nothing for anybody. But in this case, we said, no, it's not the profit. Let us look at the operational budget. So if you want to gold plate as an oil company and you want to inflate your contracts, we have a little bit of that as well. And it's the global operational budget of the industry, which is definitely more. And you can audit it. You know exactly how much I spent last year to run my company. And 3% of that comes into the budget for host community. And now the difference also is that this is going to be targeted at the host communities. In the case of the NDDC was not targeted at host communities. So sometimes the NDDC fund is being spent in places other than the host communities. That's why NDDC has been in existence. A lot of money has been pumped into NDDC. But the host community agitation still remains because it is not a targeted fund. But in this case, it is a targeted fund, targeted now at the host community. The management will be between the host community. It's a trust fund that is managed between the host community and the companies. So at the end of the year, the company and the host community will sit down and look at all the problems, and then they will now do the budget and they will spend the money. Now, as opposed to before, when they would just go and sign some MOUs that will never be operated. But this time it is by law. So the money is going to be made available by law, under the law of the PIA, and this money will definitely go to the host community. So at least it's a very, very, very good beginning. Let us take it. And I believe I am from a host community myself, and I can assure you that I feel that we've got a good deal. At least now we've got a good deal. If we are going, now the challenge before us is the management of these funds coming. You have the 3% coming for the to the host communities directly. You also have the challenge of the management of the NDDC, which we all talk about. And of course, the management of the 13%. We have to, as a people, collectively look at how this money is actually going to be targeted as the development of our areas in a prudent manner. And I'm sure we are going to be able to see some value if we look at it that way. But of course, you know, when you say, if you don't get this prudent management right, even if you get 100% of everything, we will still be crying.
Yeah, right. Okay, Honorable Minister, you've said a lot about the 3%, and we get it now. So, can you? I'll still take you back, you know, to the major challenges I earlier asked you. You know, you talked about the Act bringing transparency, you know, and all of that. So, can you be specific on the major changes this Act is going to bring about in the industry?
No. What I said about transparency is that there is a whole part of this Act that is devoted to governance structure.
Okay.
And that is transparency. So you can see end to end that this law is going to bring more transparency. And of course, because NNPC will now be a Kama company, it is going to be run commercially. It is not going to be a parastatal under government, so you are not going to have all kinds of influences, governmental influences. It is going to be a commercially viable company.
Okay.
So
okay,
it becomes much more much more professional, because it is no longer just going to be a parastatal. I'm sure you will agree with me that if NTA were also a Kama company registered under the law as a commercial venture, it will probably operate better. I'm sure you agree with me.
Okay,
so NNPC has left your league now.
Oh, wow, congratulations, NNPC. okay, Honorable Minister, would you refer to the Act now as an all-inclusive, linking, you know, to the oil and gas sector, to the larger economy, and also giving Nigerians a true sense of belonging as citizens, you know, of an oil and gas-rich country?
Definitely. That is what the law is now going to do, because people can now see end to end. I mean, before now, a lot of things were shrouded in secrecy, but now you can audit every process. You know what the law says. The law is clear on everything. There were a lot that was not provided for in our petroleum laws.
No.
For example, you had abandonment. Now we have provision for abandonment.
So now,
and
I need to cut you here.
Yes.
So, with all you've said, with the excitement and all of that, where do you see the industry now in the next 10 years?
No, I think that we will see an exponential growth in the industry. Okay. Before now, what was going on is that there was no certainty at all. Because if I'm going to invest $1 billion, if I'm going to invest $2 billion or $10 billion in this industry, we talk about these figures. If I'm going to invest, I have to be very clear about your laws. What are your laws? How much money can I repatriate? What is going to be my profit? They say the dollar is a coward. It doesn't go to any place where it is not very certain. So before now, there was no certainty, because we were in the process of amending our laws. We are in the process of passing the PIB. So without this certainty, nobody knew exactly what the laws were like or how they were going to be. So people held back. So you had a situation where $50 billion was invested in sub-Saharan Africa, And only 3 billion of that came to Nigeria, which is the biggest producer in Africa. So now, at least people can interrogate the laws and say, okay, look, I want to go to Nigeria. There's a big, major opportunity there. What are the laws? And they can put their numbers together. They can do the economics and put their numbers and come. So you can see that we have now introduced that certainty, that clarity, which was not there before, which is going to help to bring a lot of investment into this country. So in the next 10 years, I see an exponential growth of this sector, which is our bread and butter sector.
Thank you so much. It's good to have you on News Extra tonight. The Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Timmy Priest, over there. Now, the Federal Executive Council has approved the construction of new airport in Yobe State for enhanced connectivity and security architecture over the Northeast region, to be called Wachakal Airport. The project is expected to gulp over 6.2 billion naira. The Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, announced this while briefing newsmen after the meeting of the council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports on this and other resolutions adopted at the high-level engagement.
4 memoranda aimed at enhancing the nation's aviation sector for safety, security, and effective service delivery were considered and approved at the council meeting. The construction of Wachakal Airport, to be sited near Nguru in Yobe State, was one of them.
Federal Executive Council, in its wisdom, had allowed this to proceed, and many more are coming in the pipeline, and this will generally answer the question as to the growth and development of civil aviation, and also to show our preparedness for emergencies and military operation and other security agencies.
219.7 million naira has also been approved for consultancy services in respect of the project, while 9.5 billion naira is to be utilized in the supply and maintenance of 8 firefighting vehicles for the nation's airports. The Minister of Aviation has also been given the go-ahead to award contract for the deployment of sniffer dogs canine for Abuja and Lagos airports at 658.7 million naira.
These dogs, they would be doing, among other things, detection of bomb, detection of drugs, currency, prohibited items, explosives, etc., etc. Already, in accordance with the Act establishing fund, the President has approved long ago that the aviation security would bear arms and get ready for emergencies in the airport.
The Ministry of Education presented a request to Council for the approval, which we got, to now proceed to award contracts at the Federal University Efrun Warri, Delta State, for 2.7 billion to provide hostels, administrative blocks, and an e-library platform.
The Federal Executive Council also approved 187.4 million naira for the procurement of operational vehicles by the Federal Road Safety Corps.
And that is to reduce carnage on our roads and to meet its goals of reducing accidents by at least 15% and fatalities by 20%. The same as for health, the health ministry, NAFDAC particularly, also got approval to procure some vehicles for its use. There was also approval for the NDLEA to procure and install 4 full-body dual-view scanners with X-ray management software at Lagos, Port Harcourt, Enugu, and Kano airports. We know that the NDLEA has been doing wonderful things in recent times. Now it has this approval.
Approval has also been granted to Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative 90 to acquire a befitting edifice to be used as permanent head office at 536 million naira. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
You know what they say about 2 heads being better than one? The saying is not lost on the Northeast Development Commission, NEDC, as the body has engaged Northeast regional representatives of civil society organizations and private sector stakeholders as part of efforts to share ideas for the establishment of a master plan for resuscitating the region. Yagum Subukar reports.
Rebuilding the more than a decade-long war that ravaged the Northeast region prompted the need to develop a blueprint tagged Northeast Stabilization and Development Master Plan, a necessity to strategically pave way for resuscitating the region. The consultative meeting with Northeast regional representatives of civil society organizations and private sector stakeholders is a deliberated move to brainstorm on ways forward towards realizing a strong blueprint for developing the region. Managing Director NEDC Mohammed Gwani Alkali said the Commission is gearing efforts to resuscitate the region through a holistic multi-stakeholder engagement for efficiency.
We have started the process of developing the master plan for the region, and that master plan is what is going to guide us in all our activities going forward in terms of our development in all the sectors.
Representative of the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, revealed that the meeting will be complemented with maximum support at National Executive Council for far-reaching development.
The Minister is well informed of all that the NEDC is doing, and they have her full backing in that aspect.
Critical stakeholders from the 6 states of the Northeast sub-region gave suggestions on how best to strategically plan and address the spate of development in the region. In Maiduguri, Yagum Subukar, NTA News.
Governor Aminu Bello Masari of Katsina State has appealed to the people of Jibia Town to remain calm as the state government is doing everything possible to put in place measures towards finding lasting solution to the alleged overzealous action of some security operatives on duty at border communities. The governor said this when he visited the town to sympathize and extend state government's condolence to the families of the victims of the border drill patrol van, which lost control and killed 10 passers-by and left many injured. Awal Haliru reports.
Governor Aminu Bello Masari condoles with the families of those who lost their lives to the incident and wished those injured a speedy recovery. He appealed to the Jibia communities to remain calm as the state government, through its Ministry of Justice, will work with them to demand compensation and prosecution of those responsible for the death of more than 10 persons.
If they don't support the efforts of government in trying to see that they are properly compensated, they will undermine whatever we're doing to restore sanity in the operations of customs and the other security and paramilitary agencies that are working in the state.
The community elders and other stakeholders assured their cooperation. In Katsina, Awal Haliru, NTA News.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the reconstitution of the Standing Committee on National Honours Awards for a period of 4 years with effect from 5th August 2021. Elizabeth Awori has the details.
The 11-member committee has the Emir of Lafia, retired Justice Sidi Bagay Mohammed, as chairman, while the Director of Special Duties, Federal Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs will serve as secretary. Conveying the presidential approval to members of the Standing Committee, Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Senator George Akume, urged them to uphold the confidence and trust reposed in them by Mr. President. Members include Farida Waziri North Central, Mohammed Munir Jafaru North West, Saleh Isa North East, Inikio Sam Seledede South South, Professor Lazarus Ekweme South East, and Yemisi Shylon South West. Other members are Abdullah Jibril Oyekon, a representative of the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, and the Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs. In Abuja, Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has reassured the international community that Nigeria is not a failed or failing state. He gave the reassurance during some media engagements with international media organizations in Washington, D.C., United States. The minister also spoke with Nigerian journalists who accompanied him on the trip. Anthony Forson was there.
Bloomberg, the BBC, and Politico, a dominant source for news in politics and policy in power centers across the world, where reliable information can be accessed. They took turns to engage the Information and Culture Minister on the state of affairs in Nigeria, cutting across diverse issues. Of topmost interest to them are issues of insecurity and banditry, which the minister emphatically explained this way.
I took the opportunity to correct the narrative about the war against insurgency, and the truth of the matter is that Nigeria is today winning the war, and that if reports about the droves of insurgents who have come to surrender their arms and pledge loyalty to the federal government, anything to go by, we are clearly, definitely winning the war. On the issue of banditry, I also made them understand that the bandits are now suffering more casualties than before.
Pressing further to know if indeed Nigeria is at a fragile point, this again was categorically dismissed by the minister.
Nigeria is not a failed state. Nigeria will not be a failed state. Yes, we have challenges in some corners of the country, but that doesn't make the state a failed state. It is a state where basic facilities are not available, where you cannot, where everything has broken down. Nigeria has not gotten to that stage. We'll never get to that stage.
On the suspension of Twitter operation in Nigeria, Lai Mohammed maintained that no responsible government anywhere in the world would condone any form of meddling in its internal affairs, as was the role Twitter arrogated to itself.
Twitter became a platform of choice for separatists and naysayers to actually threaten the national unity of Nigeria and our sovereignty. And I gave examples of, the postings on Twitter and the several attempts the federal government made to warn Twitter to delist some of those posts, and the arrogance of Twitter at that time that those tweets did not offend their own regulations.
Lai Mohammed expressed satisfaction that Nigeria, under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, has witnessed tremendous infrastructure development through purposeful leadership driven by focus and vision. In Washington, D.C., Anthony Forson, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari expresses his sympathy to families and other victims of floods following continuing heavy rainfall over the last weeks, which has affected thousands of people in 32 states of the country. This has resulted in the loss of lives, homes, farms, and disruption of normal life. In a statement, the president, who resumed normal activity on Wednesday after a 5-day quarantine following international travel, expressed concern over the situation as it unfolds. The president, however, called for better coordination between the federal authorities, including the National Emergency Management Authority and state governments, to develop a culture of respect for weather forecast and to act upon early warnings to avert the yearly occurrence of disasters. The president took notice of the fact that some states took the notices shared at different times of flood warnings, citing specific territories and communities named by NEMA, but which sadly were not only unheeded, but the letters remain unacknowledged until this day. He, however, commended the few states that activated their response mechanisms following the warnings and did well, thereby to avert the consequent unnecessary damage and losses. In order to carry all the states along in the administration's determination to put an enduring system for forecasting of floods and other natural disasters through the use of technology and improved coordination, the president has approved the convention of workshop by NEMA in the coming weeks that will bring all states' emergency response agencies to the table. And up ahead on News Extra, the reformatory side of the Nigerian Correctional Service that not only guarantee reintegration of ex-inmates into the society, but means of livelihood. This and more right after this time out. Join us again. Good to have you back on News Extra. Ensuring that there is value for money spent by ministries, departments and agencies in the interest of Nigerians remains the commitment of the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, though with some challenges. This is the position of the Auditor General of the Federation while presenting the 2019 financial report to the Clerk of the National Assembly. Mobolaji Moribiri has the report.
Reports from the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation are tools required by the National Assembly to investigate public expenditures to ensure transparency and accountability in government financial management. This roundtable is one of such meetings of the Auditor General for the Federation to present its financial report for the year 2019 to the National Assembly.
Unsubstantiated balances amounting to 4.97 trillion naira noted in the course of the audit, which was above the materiality level of 89.34 billion set for the audit, among others. There are very huge challenges. The absence of the Federal Audit Service Law is a big challenge. We are not filling the vacancies we have because of funding.
Deputy Clerk to the National Assembly expressed optimism that the challenges faced by the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation are looked into by the appropriate bodies.
Sister Auditor Generals across the region and the continent have found you worthy, appointment to head your teams.
The Office of the Auditor General for the Federation is a creation of the Constitution to monitor the treasury of the Federation. From the National Assembly, Mobolaji Moribiri, NTA News.
And going by the projections of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Nigeria may collect double the revenue of 2021 in 2022. The executive chairman of FIRS, Mohammed Nami, at the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper interaction said they are targeting 10.1 trillion naira for collection in 2022. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports on the MTEF FSP at the House of Representatives.
Putting heads together to have a realistic budget is what the ministries, departments and agencies of government are doing with the House of Representatives Committee on Finance. At this interactive session with the committee is the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, who said the outlook is positive as the half-year performance on collection for 2021 is 43% of the 6.4 trillion naira approved.
Now that we have PIB, total sums of 4.4 trillion, 6.2 trillion, and 5.6 trillion. And as far as non-oil taxes are concerned, we have projected that we're going to generate 5.7 trillion in the year 2022.
He added that FIRS plans to introduce road tax through a legislation.
You can be working towards the informal sectors or categorize the informal sector so that the masses will be in that categories and other categories can be working.
The Nigerian Ports Authority took its turn with the General Manager of Finance, Emeka Ezengu, who stood in for the acting managing director. The committee questioned several line items on the proposed expenditure list, including the corporate social responsibility projects.
Corporate social responsibility, the last one there is 3.78 billion. 3.78 billion. Yes. And yet, the only thing you can identify is that you give light. So we will delete. We will delete that. We will take that to revenue.
The NPA is projecting a revenue of 338 billion naira for 2022. The Director General of the Nigerian Lottery Regulatory Commission, Lanre Gbajabiamila, was also engaged by the committee on the Commission's projections for the to 2024 period. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
And on business, International Monetary Fund special drawing rights to boost liquidity, resident representative says, as investors lose 2.4 billion naira amid positive market breadth in the stock market. Details with Musa Awakar on Business News. Musa, it's over to you.
Thank you, Fatih. As International Monetary Fund member countries wait for the 23rd August when the general allocation of special drawing rights will become effective, IMF country representative to Nigeria, Ari Eisen, says the SDR will strengthen government's effort in the recovery process and boost liquidity.
And policies needed to support the economy of all our member countries. The Board of Governors, with the help of the Managing Director and staff, really approved that very important, we call it shot in the arm. It's really an injection in the arm of the global economy to provide liquidity, to provide foreign exchange, so that our countries, and Nigeria including, will be better able to fight the challenges of this pandemic.
And now to stocks. Equities market closed Wednesday trading session in negative territory. The all-share index declined 0.01% to close 38,545.67 basis points, and equity capitalization at 20.6 trillion naira. 132.07 million shares, worth 2.67 billion naira, were traded in 3,307 deals. Transcorp, Champs PLC, and Zenith Bank are the most traded stocks, with a combined volume of 37 million shares. That's business news. It's back to you, Fatima.
Well, thank you so much, Musa. Now, the Nigerian Correctional Service is better known for the spell inmates spend away from society. So, not much is known of its reformatory services. There is a comprehensive program which gives opportunity for educational advancement and artisanship. The service also provides starter packs to ex-inmates to practice various trades. Victor Azu has the rest of the story.
Once dejected and in custody, these ex-inmates now have the freedom and equipment to pursue honest living, a transition from grass to grace. Ehime Osano is a PhD student and has also acquired skills in barbing, all made possible behind the walls of the Kuje Custodial Center.
One unique thing about this too I'm seeing here is that it's not for me alone. I can employ someone here else that will barb alongside me, 2 clippers, 2 seats. I went there as a first degree holder, but before I left, I had my master's and I've gained admission in that same conservation center in Kuje for my PhD.
Like him, others are now skilled in hairdressing, laundry, welding and tailoring, among others. One after the other, the Controller General of Corrections presents beneficiaries with starter packs to practice their trades, while urging the Nigerian public to accept them without stigmatization.
I wish to call on all the beneficiaries to justify government's huge investment in providing these tools by working hard and being worthy ambassadors of the NCOS, never returning to the way of crime.
With the necessary equipment and support, Ehime and other beneficiaries can now become responsible members of society and contribute their part to the economic growth of the nation. Custodial centers also received drugs for the benefit of inmates nationwide. In Abuja, Victor Azu, NTA News.
We head to Makurdi now, where Benue State Governor Samuel Otom telling communities along the Guma-Makurdi Road to allow the federal government's dualization of the Kefi-Lafia-Makurdi Road go on without let or hindrance. The governor made the appeal at a meeting with a delegation from the Federal Ministry of Works, leaders of affected communities and the contractor handling the project in Makurdi. Charles Abba reports that resistance by communities whose property were affected by the project thwarted the progress of the work.
It would be recalled that the federal government awarded the contract for the dualization of the Kefi-Akwanga-Lafia-Makurdi Road with work steadily in progress. However, the work had to stop along Guma-Makurdi Road in Benue State as communities whose property were affected by the road construction demanded for compensation and put up resistance. It is to ensure that the problem is resolved, to keep the project going, that a delegation of the Federal Ministry of Works, leaders of the affected communities, and the contractor have met with Governor Samuel Ortom. The Tolobi, Chief Moses Anagende, said people's farmlands and structures were affected and needed the needful to be done.
The federal government has continued to promise, and they are very frank, say we are going to pay. We have not paid anybody yet, right from Abuja through Kefi to Makudu. We have not paid anybody, so be patient. And we have continued to be very patient.
The Minister of Works, represented by a director in the ministry, Ishaq Mohammed, said payment of compensation to the affected communities along Guma Makudi Road would commence next week.
Prior to that, Your Excellency, the Minister had already set up a compensation payment committee. The committee was sitting, working at modalities for the payment. And as of now, I think they've worked out a timeline for the payment of this compensation.
Governor Samuel Ortom, who appreciated the federal government for the dualization work of the road, frowned at people taking laws into their hands and appealed to the affected communities to give peace a chance.
We started this work in Kefi, and it came all the way. No work stopped. Then coming to Benue, you come and stop work. For what? I'm happy they have also spoken to your people that work should continue. And the minister have also directed that compensation should be done by next week. If in the course of doing this and you have any other problem, let me know.
He said the road project, when completed, would be of benefit to all. In Makudi, Charles Abba, NTA News.
And from Makudi to Oshogo, it was a show of culture and tradition spiced with glamour at this year's Osun Osogbo Festival, which just ended. Mobolaji Akim reports that Trophy Lager beer, one of the products from the stable of International Brewery Ilesha, also added color to the annual festival. His report.
Culture is identity. It is a way of life, and this is what this year's Osun Osogbo Festival provided devotees, worshippers, and enthusiasts, both old and young, that opportunity to showcase the rich cultural heritage of the Osun Osogbo. A long walk to the grove, now a UNESCO heritage site, notwithstanding, was not without its glitz and glamour. In its characteristics, by adding color to the annual festival, the International Brewery PLC Ilesha, producers of Trophy Lager beer, did not only welcome visitors to Osogbo with billboards strategically located around city, where honorable, as Trophy is called, are mounted. Company also provided free Trophy Lager to visitors at various points leading to the Sacred Grove.
Trophy Lager beer factory has really done great deal by coming for this Osun Festival every year, because I do monitor them every year that they do always come.
Trophy Lager beer is the best.
Why is the brand Trophy involved in Osun Osogbo Festival?
Osun Osogbo Festival is a festival that is promoting our tradition, our culture, and Trophy is a brand that supports tradition and culture, so we are supporting Osun Osogbo Festival in that light.
The entertainment train later in the day moved to Freedom Park outside the Grove in the heart of the city, where Trophy Lager beer and one of its newest brands, Trophy Stout, was made available for consumers at a discounted rate.
Trophy is a drink for the honorables, so our consumers are the honorables.
In Osogbo, Bolaji Akim, NTA News.
Eminent personalities, including diplomats, politicians, and captains of industries from within and outside the country, have continued to pay tribute to the former military president, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, as he turned 80 on Tuesday. Niger State Governor Abubakar Sani Bello, alongside his Sokoto and Akwa Ibom states counterparts, were among many Nigerians who thronged his residence in Mina to felicitate with the celebrant. Hussaina Musa now reports.
The celebration of General Ibrahim Babangida's 80th birthday was attended by quite a number of eminent Nigerians across the country, and this is evident by the increase in number of traffic at the Mina airport, even though the celebration at his uphill residence was fun-filled. Camera coverage that often characterize this type of occasions were, however, not allowed. Members of the community were also not left out as they trooped into the former military president's residence to celebrate his lifetime achievements. The celebrant and former military president of Nigeria, General Ibrahim Babangida, is described as a detribalized leader with extraordinary skills and has continued to promote unity in the country.
I wish him a very happy birthday, long life and prosperity. He has achieved a lot in his life, and from the number of people you can see around, you can tell that he's a man of the people.
Succeeding in uniting this country is one leader I've seen who combines character and charisma.
He is still being celebrated because of his experience, and he's a man of inestimable value.
His leadership style and resolve to promote peace and corporate coexistence of the country is said to be unwavering. Emena Hussaina Musa, NTA News.
And President Muhammadu Buhari salutes Chairman, CEO of OilServe, Emeka Oposa, as he turns 60 August 19, 2021. In a statement, the president pays tribute to the electrical engineer who graduated from the then University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, and who has built a reputation as an astute administrator, investor, and entrepreneur. The president knows that Oposa successfully runs a chain of companies, both within and outside the country, with special interest in the oil and gas industry, playing a major role in the building of the landmark Ajaokuta-Kaduna-Kano pipeline on the construction. President Buhari rejoices with the Oposa's family, their friends, associates, and well-wishers on the auspicious occasion, wishing the celebrant long life and prosperity. 36 years after walk into the lives of a hill-dwelling ancient people who have refused to tag along with civilization. Guess what? Koma is in the news again, and our next segment brings you all the interesting details as well as our heavy dose of health-related stories that you are bound to connect with. That would be right after we return from this next break. Thanks for staying. Koma people, remember them? From the then almost unreachable mountains of Adamawa, 36 years after the story of the Koma people made headlines across the country, Abdullahi Mohammed traces the steps of a veteran NTA broadcaster who was arguably the first to take a camera up the Koma hills and document the life of the people. His findings are captured in this report.
Culture undiluted, high above the reach of perceived civilization. That was how veteran broadcaster Timaus Matthias, who is now in his 70s, met the Koma people.
They are held tenaciously together by their tradition and religion. There is no policeman in Koma, but there's law and order.
With a clue, we set out. Every step of the journey, the treasures of the land lay bare. A handful of rivers to cross and the blessings therein. Curiosity, the deaf, dumb, but lettered, and a relationship between a host and a parasite worth emulating.
It was hours of driving through thick and thin, and here we arrived at the Mayokila River, walking through it, giving me the signal that I am arriving towards the land of the Koma people, our destination.
End of the journey by a vehicle, onto motorbikes, and by sunset we were at the base of the Alantika mountain. So the climbing was in the blanket of the night. By sunrise, Baggy Koma village opens its gate of rocks, waterfalls and springs. Then the sniffing for those who still hold in high esteem their culture begins. The men totally embracing modernity, with older women still retaining some aspect of their culture. The shrines kept away from the public, but not smoking of the pipes. Plenty of the young without classrooms, and the pregnant without hospitals.
We are told that we are part of the government of the people, but we are forgetting
that the bubbles from the Alantika hills nourishes the rivers we crossed.
Making it up and down the Koma mountain, your heart pumps faster, you must sweat it out, and also your feet will become painful. But for the treasure up there, I will do it once again and over again. That summarizes the story of the Koma Mountains and its people. From Jada Local Government, Adamawa State, Abdullah Mohammed, NTA News.
I can see you've also lost some weight there. It's a beautiful place, I must say. Love, they say, is a beautiful thing. There, however, seems to be more pressure on today's couple to make love work. The relationship between the sexes seems to have taken an athletic turn, a test of stamina, if you know what we mean. Just like weary athletes, some couples have resorted to performance-enhancing drugs. And Chidima Ndubisi is curious and attempts in this report to untangle health and romance.
In times past, being intimate with one's partner came naturally after due assent by appropriate authorities and cultural observances by families, going by tales of the older generation. A more liberal society opened the door for more flexibility, and changes began in the 80s when pulmonary hypertension drug was produced, and it was discovered that the side effects were increased libido and sexual performance. And boom, a sex enhancer industry was born. Good news for individuals with erectile dysfunction as they got their groove back with the drugs correcting the anomaly. But then there were reports of rise in the manufacture of sex-boosting substances of both orthodox and herbal preparations, which are used in treatment these days.
There are so many people who have erectile dysfunction because they have uncontrolled diabetes, anxiety, stressed, that if they just get proper counseling and they're put in environments where they are really calm, everything should be fine.
There is, however, a trend observed in the art of intimacy. Both males and females, including younger generation, with no reproductive health challenge, now use sex enhancers without doctor's prescription.
The patronage has continued to increase. Everybody having access to it?
Most of them want to prove a point. Let it be like, okay, I'm a superhero in the room and all that. So it still revolves around satisfaction. And some go for younger girls, especially when it has to do with sugar daddy stuff.
They are considering the money they pay the girl, and then they want to last longer.
In some cases, these sex enhancers are not used in isolation, but alongside illicit drugs and alcohol. For each foray into excess, there is a price to pay, as seen in a clip on social media, where a man in the company of a younger girl was found dead in his hotel room, with sex-enhancing pills found in his bag.
When you have prolonged erection, that can cause you blood clots. You can lead to tissue death. One orgasm during sex is equivalent to running 7 miles. So you can imagine the amount of stress that you're putting your heart through when you have endless sex. It can lead to a heart attack, blood clot in the lung, stroke, sudden heart failure.
Experts say the key is in the plate. You are what you eat.
All these vegetables and fruits you see in the market, they have very good potency to improve your system. Cucumber, banana, coconut, tiger nut, because of the high selenium and other products and phytochemicals there to reduce blood pressure in a way.
As for control of these substances, health practitioners say regulatory agencies should ban over-the-counter sale and mop up unapproved ones in circulation. In Abuja, Chidima Ndubisi, NTA News.
From what we've seen and heard, I would say caution is the watchword here. We have at one time or the other heard of cardiac arrest, heart attack, and heart failure. But do we know the difference? Well, in this report, Sandra Duwese-Akeme examines the burden of these diseases and reports that each one signifies a health crisis involving the heart. Here's the report.
The heart is a vital organ that pumps blood to all parts of the body, such that any condition affecting it may result in cardiovascular disease such as cardiac arrest, heart attack, and failure. However, these terms are often misplaced and or misunderstood for one another. Cardiologists say hypertension, diabetes, and infections of the heart are some of the causes of coronary heart diseases.
Your heart is supposed to increase its activity to meet its metabolic requirements. So the heart continues to work from birth to grave. So it continues to adjust itself to whatever you are doing, so that you'll be able to do those things. But when the heart fails to meet the requirement placed on it, the demand placed on it, then it means that the heart has failed. So heart attack usually is the layman term for myocardial infarction. So when there is a block in those blood vessels, then a part of the heart can die off. So we call it myocardial infarction.
To prevent cardiovascular disease, we need to control our blood pressure if it is high. We need to prevent diabetes by avoiding intake of sugar and minerals and eating a lot of vegetables and fruits. And we need to engage in exercises to avoid obesity.
Over the years, cardiovascular diseases have been the leading cause of deaths globally, recording over 7 million deaths yearly, including high professional sportsmen and women. How informed are athletes on these ravaging diseases?
Maybe 2 months or 1 month, I go to the doctor. I check my BP, check my system. I don't go into the pitch anyhow.
Less cholesterol, less carbs, more exercise, just keep fit, and that's basically it. And take your drugs regularly.
Before we go into the pitch, we do have some little exercise to know how fit one is. And if you are not fit, there are some drugs the medical team normally prescribe for us to take, like some energy drink and other drugs.
Usually, you need to do a medicals before, if you are a sports person. So and this medical would entail that they will do an ECG for you and they will scan your heart. That's minimum for somebody who is going to go into sports, and for majority of us.
A stage in time, they say, serves 9. This explains why people should ensure that they carry out regular medical checks to ascertain the states of their hearts in order to avoid being victims of these dreaded killer diseases that have continued to claim millions of lives. In Makudi, Sandra Duwese-Akeme, NTA News.
Lagos State government is working with private organizations to tackle financial strain-induced depression among women in the grassroots as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, especially with the rise in the new variant. Musa Toliot reports that this was at this year's Women's Assembly organized by the Ministry of Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation in Lagos.
The Assembly is a gathering of women drawn from the 57 local governments and council development areas of the state. It is the third phase of the event, and this edition focuses on the prevailing economic circumstances worsened by myriads of challenges and the way out for women, especially those in the grassroots.
Sustainable development can only be achieved through the involvement of all stakeholders. Therefore, our collective responses will form the base for subsequent programs in the ministry.
We thought it as a ministry to reach out to the women at the grassroots level about financial inclusion, about their rights as women and as widows, and also for them to know about their mental health. A lot of women in Lagos State are depressed and they don't even know.
The event also seeks to address the challenges faced by women living with disabilities, widows, as well as how to cope when depression sets in.
Statistics show that women are more likely to have anxiety and depression more than males. Women can
it and when things are going wrong, I mean, they take it, they personalize it, and you see them trying to make everything right. You know, so these are some of the things that add extra pressure.
By way of mediation and agreement with the family, and even through her children, she can at least inherit during her lifetime. She can make use of the property of the husband.
Free medical screening and consultation were also part of the event in Lagos. Musa Tolian, NTA News.
Now, do you feel feverish, experience rashes or itchy skin? Are you passing frequent urine with traces of blood? It's time to seek medical advice. You may be suffering from schistosomiasis, otherwise called disease of the poor. Experts have attributed the cause of this disease to lack of personal and environmental hygiene. On this report, Masita Ikbang looks at the symptoms, prevention and treatment for these diseases in Nigeria.
Schistosomiasis is an acute and chronic disease caused by parasitic worms. Report shows that people are infected during routine agricultural, domestic or recreational activities, which expose them to infested water.
Yeah, schistosomiasis or bilharziasis or snake fever is caused by parasite known as schistosomes. There are two forms of this: Schistosoma hematobium, the one that is found in the urinary tract, the urinary system, and also the Schistosoma mansoni, the one found in the intestinal system.
Schistosomiasis is common when you see people urinating and blood follows, blood stain in their urine. They are infected with the ova of Schistosoma. Maybe because they have swim in dirty water or bathed with dirty water.
Though schistosomiasis can kill, the good news is that it is treatable and curable. Nigeria is said to be achieving 41% health coverage rate, yet the disease is endemic in the country, especially at rural areas.
It is one of the neglected tropical diseases that is common in Nigeria. We have over 63% prevalence rate of these diseases.
Therefore, the 6th National Technical Working Group meeting on schistosomiasis is set to update the public on plans for full intervention of migration from local government to the ward level.
All we need to do is to take the drugs to the people, to the communities, allow the children to have access to these drugs. They need these drugs.
80 million tablets, produced worldwide, and Nigeria consumes about 1/3, 80 million tablets. If at all we need to treat everybody, 1/3 is quite a lot. And the shelf life is just 2 years. You bring in 80 millions and then you still have a number of these tablets expiring because of supply chain management issues. I want us to begin to look at these issues. Okay, these are concerns for the country.
It takes the hope of these experts that at the end of this meeting, they would be able to come up with strategy that will help to deworm children for at least once in a year to prevent them from contacting schistosomiasis and other soil-transmitted diseases. Basi Taikwan, NTA News.
Thank you, Basi. Let's take another breather. See you soon. Welcome back. Gombe State House of Assembly has passed a vote of confidence on Governor Muhammadu Inuwa Yahaya for successfully putting the state on the pedestal of sustainable development. The legislators, under the leadership of the Speaker, took the decision at a special sitting during which they expressed satisfaction with the governor's leadership style. Abbas Mekano reports.
During its plenary on Tuesday, the House unanimously passed vote of confidence on State Governor over what they describe as unprecedented achievements recorded in 2 years in office. This followed a motion moved by Majority Leader Yerima Ladan, representing the people of Kaltungo East, that the governor deserves the legislative support to enable him take Gombe to the next level, especially the 10-year development plan for the state documented by the governor. Also contributing to the motion, members representing Balanga North Musa Buba and that of Fero Chenge Samuel Marcus identified areas like economic development, construction of road network, healthcare service delivery, educational development, provision of agricultural inputs, social investment, as well as urban and rural electrification projects as sectors that are receiving adequate attention of Inuwa Yahaya's administration despite meager resources available. The Speaker, Gombe State House of Assembly, Abubakar Mohammed Lugero, after adopting the motion, led all the 24 members on courtesy call on Governor Muhammad Inuwa to intimate him of their resolution.
We are 100% comfortable with the way you run Gombe State. And all honorable members, irrespective of our political affiliation, we say 4+4.
This gesture confirms solidarity, unity, and the resolve for us jointly to fight and move Gombe State forward.
The members were able to notice the developmental stride of the governor through oversight functions of various committees of the House that cut across all the 11 local government areas of Gombe State. Abbas Mekano, NTA News.
To sports now. Following the draws for the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations, sports correspondent Kena Ima Abdike x-rays the 6 groups of 24 teams on parade.
Preparations begin in earnest for the finals of the COVID-19 delayed 2021 Africa Cup of Nations following the draws on Tuesday in Yaoundé, Cameroon, with 24 teams placed in 6 groups. 5-time champions and hosts, Cameroon, will kick off their campaign in Group A against Burkina Faso on the 9th of January 2022, and then Ethiopia and Cape Verde. Senegal inherited Group B with Malawi, Guinea, and Zimbabwe. Former champions Ghana and Morocco will start as favorites in Group C against Gabon and Comoros. 7-time winners Egypt and 3-time winners Nigeria square up in another highly anticipated first-round match on January 11, 2022. Sudan and Guinea-Bissau will accompany both teams. Defending champions Algeria will face Sierra Leone, Equatorial Guinea, and Cote d'Ivoire in the clash of Group E, and finally in Group F, Tunisia and Mali will face Gambia and Mauritania. Comoros and Gambia are making their debut in the biennial competition.
Anything that has made it to the finals should not be regarded as a minnow. They all have one objective, one motive: to go, play, and win. They want to be crowned champions, so this is very important. So no team should be looked down upon, no team should be regarded as a minnow.
Why I say it's very tough is that Egypt is in our group. The same Egypt deprived Nigeria so many times of the Nations Cup. But I think this time around, Nigeria will get there.
In the lives of the Samuel Chukwueze and the rest of them, Wilfred Ndidi, and the upcoming ones, I'm sure Nigeria, the nation flag, will fly very well in Yaoundé, Cameroon's capital.
The top 2 finishers in each group, as well as the 4 best third-place finishers, qualified for the round of 16, with the third-place match billed for February 6, 2022 in Yaoundé, alongside the final match. The 2021 Africa Cup of Nations is the 33rd edition since inception in 1957. In Abuja, I am Kenen Ima Aburike.
The family of late Sagir Abubakar, a former staff of the Nigerian Television Authority NTA, continues to receive sympathizers who visit to register their condolences. Haruna Mohammed reports that Executive Director News Mohammed Labo was in Kaduna to condole the bereaved family on behalf of the NTA management.
Accompanied by the Zonal Director NTA Kaduna Network Center, Hamza Musa Makarfi, the Executive Director News Mohammed Labu described the deceased as a veteran who has distinguished himself and made a mark in the television industry. He prayed Allah forgives his shortcomings and grant him Al-Jannah Firdaus.
He was a very, very hardworking, very humble and very religious person. May his soul rest in peace.
Special thanks to the DG, NTA Abuja, and the staff of NTA Kaduna. I'm grateful.
Late Sagir died on Saturday after a brief illness. He is survived by a wife and 5 children. In Kaduna, Haruna Mohammed, NTA News.
NTA would short miss late Sagir. Baystar connect with the NTA, stand against rape and rapists. Thank you so much for being a part of News Extra. I am Fatima Umar Buba. Good night.